of inverses created identities. Too much partying last night, Caleb? Celebrating graduation? So we already did this earlier. When we graphed the result of the composition of g of f of x, this y equals x, with the model and its inverse, what does the graph of all three reveal about the nature of inverse functions? Again, inverse functions are a what? Graphically. Not just any old line. Reflection over of y equals x. Remember, y equals x was that what type of function? Starts with an I. An I. Inverse. Well, we had inverse functions, so they created an identity function. Didn't I mention that earlier? Or was that the other class? Other class. Got it. That's why we're confused. So we want to notice, and make sure you make that note here then, right? The inverse functions, remember this on the previous question, it's for E. The inverse functions are reflections across y equals x, the identity function. A whole lot of identities being created, even the identity function. Okay, so there is something unique about the task 2 from lesson 3. Remember, this was the one about a car and its required stopping distance. Do you remember what operation we used to linearize that set of data?
Is it operation?
Mm-hmm. We used to linearize that set of data. The exponential was for that time one that we just did, time and body temperature. So we need lesson 3 out. We need task 2 from lesson 3. That's task 2 or lesson 2. Task 2 from lesson 3.
It was quadratic.
It was quadratic.
Yeah.
So what was the operation we used? Square root? It's not that one. That's lesson 2, Shaquem. Yep, that's lesson 2. Turn it. Lesson 3 says lesson 3. That one says understand data and context. So, what are we going to do to the y hat in the transformed linear model? You just said the original data had a quadratic shape. So the inverse of a quadratic is a square root. So give me a model. We'll use all the same one on this part.
I think I got 0.33x minus 0.20.
Okay? 60 seconds. Come up with the model for the original data set based on that transformed linear model. Well, there's this weird thing where y'all struggle when I only give you 1 or 2 problems, so I'm giving you several practice problems.
So we're going for the original?
Going for the original from that transformed linear model. Remember, just think about it. What would you do to get the original model?
Take the inverse.
Okay? When you say the inverse, remember there's a couple different ways I could take that. What do you mean?
Take the inverse of that.
So let's square, or square root y equals, per parentheses 0.23x minus 0.28 parentheses squared.
So would the square root still be there?
No.
Remember, the whole thing was you just squared both sides, right? Because remember, if we want the original data, don't forget what we want is y equals f of x. So you would have to, don't write the square, but that's what's happening. Or don't write it there, because that square and the square root will cancel. So y equals f of x equals 0.33x minus 0.28 squared.
Why did you do that?
Well, because I want you to remember that y is equal to f of x. You could have just written y equals, or you could write just f of x equals. But let me ask you a question. Is y equal to f of x?
Yes.
Is f of x equal to that? So we're just showing that all three of those statements are equal. Or all three of those expressions are equal. Okay? So now move to part C. We need the inverse function. Get that inverse function. And again, I will point out, I'm telling you to use part A. Can you use part B to get the inverse function? Yeah, because all it is solving for x, but it's easier to go from the square root of y equals 0.33x minus 0.28.
So now we gotta solve x.
Now we got to solve for x, because if we have x equals, that's going to be the, which type of function? You don't know what type of function it would be if you have x equals g of y? When y is now the input, and x is now the output? The inverse, thank you, Preston. So remember, you got to think big picture. You got to, it's not just doing something. Why are we doing it? Well, I want the inverse function. I want x equals g of y. Caleb, what are you trying to get? Right. So do you need to square to get the x on its own? So go ahead and start on this part. You can do f of x or y. Remember the y hats for the model, we're focusing on the inverse functions right now.
So, in place of x, I'll put, I'll take my, substitutes on the thing.
We're just trying to figure out what x is equal to. I just want the inverse function right now.
After you change it over, I put 0.28 plus f of x
Let me see.
equals 0.33x.
Okay. I'm trying to do this.
What happens to your square root of y hat?
I don't need it.
Huh? Well, I mean, it is the square root of y hat plus 0.28.
So that'd be square root of f.
Y minus or Y plus?
But I don't need square root of.
Why not?
Y
Oh,
minus.
yes, sir.
Nope, I'm just asking you to think.
When the music goes.
Clock. It would have been in. It's almost at 55. So that means you have 10 minutes left.
What's that? It's not a little fat.
Oh, and it's 55, it'd be,
No,
This was a
stop trying to do the least, Xavier. We got stuff to learn. You are, but you're always quick to be like, all right, it's ready. I'm gonna go, and then you pack up 3 minutes before we end class.
My teacher, I go 30 minutes.
Nope. Next year, I'm making the rule: if you pack up before I tell you to pack up, you're gonna stay in my class an extra minute.
Oh, we're gonna be in there too? No, we're not.
You don't know what you're taking and who's teaching it.
Oh, yeah, I do. I actually do.
I want to specifically request Caleb Ivory in my class.
Oh, I'm not gonna be in. I'm done with my
I
man.
gotta change it. I thought it was, I thought this was last year. I thought this was last year.
Yeah.
No, you have to take a class senior year
I'm
too.
done with all my math though, so I won't see you again.
You are not done with all your math, so you
Yes.
have to take a
We
fourth
gotta
math.
take another.
I am done with all my math. I took 4, I took 3 at Northridge and 1 here.
Pretty sure with the new
Yes,
rules
it does.
at the
I
state,
took, Ms. Jimmy said we just talked about like 2
okay,
days
the
ago.
new rules,
Senior
which maybe you got grandfathered in, the new rules are you have to take a math every year
That's
in high
rules.
school.
That's
Miss
crazy.
Kenny,
What about English?
that's every year. I'm doing dual enrollment, I do enrollment next year.
Are you taking a math class for dual enrollment?
Yes.
Okay, as I said, you have to take
But
a
it
math
doesn't count
every
for
year.
it doesn't count for like a high school credit, it's just so I can add credit for math in college. I'm done with all my math in high school.
You don't fully understand the legal side of things. You're
How
not.
many maps are
That's going to count as a high school credit.
No, it's not.
there?
Why they made me take 5 math, Miss Kenny?
You took no
Buddy,
goddamn.
I need you to understand.
How much math?
You're taking a college course, but it is still a math class that you are getting high school credit for as well.
I don't need a high school
You
credit.
get high school credit anyway and college, buddy.
I'm going over my credits already.
Still don't add up.
Stop, Caleb. Just I'll talk about it with you after class. You don't
have
fully
a meeting
understand.
about this.
So D, next, algebraically compose g of f of x or f of g of y. I'll do one of those, you do the other one while I'm working on it. Which one do y'all want to do? Which one do you want me to do?
Well, you do both. You do both right there. Yeah.
No. Huh?
Oh, I already did before.
What do GLR?
Y'all do f of g of y?
I did.
F8, no, do
You
that.
want g of f of x?
Yeah.
I did, no, I did the other one though.
Well, do g of f of x.
Oh, what you doing?
That's the same thing, you got switch around.
What you looking at, dude?
No, I already did it.
It's weird, I didn't think pics have anything to do with this math class right now.
I mean, you gotta think
Please
about
stop.
it.
Just stop.
Dang, that's loud. Oh yeah, we showed this and we're gonna do FG a bit.
Oh, we doing that?
No, yeah, we're doing
We're doing
FG
that.
and Y. Yeah, he did out. When we talked about him, we wasn't doing it.
I already did the one for G.
This one we wanted.
I ain't remember.
Y'all are doing this one. That's why I'm doing
We
this.
already did that. We already did FG. We been did that. We said we were gonna do that one.
You're a liar. Get to work. You lied. I literally just looked at his paper.
I heard that word somewhere.
Okay.
Guys, you still got stuff to learn.
Look at the clock, dude. Come on.
Come on, Mr. Kenny. It's like I haven't had you for a whole semester and I don't know that you're going to tell me to learn stuff.
What's the first step? I'm gonna do it on board.
Sleep. No, that one.
Also, still.
And I do.
Can I do it on the board?
Sure. Just make sure you have those parentheses there.
I know.
And then also make sure, because right now you are only multiplying 1 divided by 0.33 by that 0.28.
You sure?
So noted, because, and that's important, because again, that's happening here, but if I put parentheses, right, you are going to do those first, creating that 0, so then you're left to 0.33x times 1 divided by 0.33. But it's important because mathematically you have the right concept, but you don't have the procedure fully down. You have to be careful about where those parentheses and brackets go.
Miss Kendall, come over.
So I understand that this goes.
So that's f of x, right? But where's your g function?
That's what I'm trying to get to.
G's right here, right? The whole thing is that is the input for this g function. So you want the square root, that's taking the place of y, plus 0.28. Right? So you recognize that f of x right here, but we need to recognize that that's the input in the place of y. Now simplify.
Yeah, you want to try.
That's not what I asked you to do. It's
You
not
need
what I
help,
asked you to
okay?
That was stupid.
You need help?
No, you're not.
You sure?
We went from,
No, come
you
on,
already
Dad, help
did
me.
this to get the inverse function.
This is the, inverse.
I asked you to compose g of f of x, which means that f of x is, hey, right here. You have this squared and then the square root. You were trying to cancel this and this.
No, you were trying to cancel.
I'm just looking
Those don't cancel, they're not the same. But nothing.
Teachers,
What's the
students,
square root of a
sergeants, and
square?
direction code everyone has had a great
They cancel.
Friday. Freshmen, over the next 2 blocks, you will be testing NI-ready. During the 3rd block, we will test all female freshmen in the following
Keep
locations.
going.
You are to report directly to this testing location, and then you will eat lunch. So, young ladies that are 9th graders, when the bell rings, please report to this location. If your last name begins with the letter A through Jefferson, that's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, through J in Jefferson, you need to report to the
I
library.
hate to tell you, Miss Kim, with that
If
bear.
your last name.
I hate to tell you, I don't care.
Massey, you need to report to room 225. Jinx through Massey to 225. If your last name is McCluskey, report
I can make sure you stay.
McCluskey to Robertson.
Oh, he told me.
If your last name is Robinson through Terrell, you need to report to room 100.
Oh, well,
Robinson
you did
through Terrell, please report to room
I know.
100.
But I ain't start the
If
fight
your
for
last name is.
So it's like now
what I heard.
Hey,
what you heard?
I mean,
But how does this look, bro? How does this look, bro? You
And then there,
and 200 people,
Hey.
you.
So some
I need you to stop and I need you to look at this. Because, yes, sir.
Alright, so I put in, for the y, I put in, I put under square root 0.33 x minus.
0.28 square.
Square, right?
Right.
Cause I gotta say,
I want it.
then
Right.
square root
So
is
make
less
sure,
than
well, can I see this real quick? What you need to be aware of is this is grouped together as well.
So.
And that square root goes all over all of this, and then there's parentheses around all of that. Notice how there's parentheses around the square root of that y?
Yep.
And then you need parentheses underneath the square root for that new expression. Hey, guys, I need you to pause really quickly, I need you to see something, stop and listen. There is the square root function and the quadratic. What's different this time around?
It's a parabola, like.
There's a parabola, which is a quadratic, right? But look at the square root. Does that look like a reflection across y equals x?
No.
So here's the issue. Sometimes, if you were to reflect this, it would no longer be a vertical parabola, it would be a
Horizontal.
horizontal. But that horizontal parabola is not a function. As a result, you can't do that. So instead, what we do is we actually restrict the domain, we cut out all of this, and we have this function. If you reflect this blue across y equals x, what do you get? The green. So that you actually have a function. We'll pick up with that on Monday. We'll take about 20 to 30 minutes. And you graphic organizers ASAP.
Yeah, when we had got a, you know,
Head
like
back.
those on the doors right there. Alright, so we got outside, right? So when Cam walk in front of, Cam,
Wait, was it a planned fight?
Then got on the
Is you not
It's
listening?
the same story. Same story.
Alright, so Cam walk outside, so when I turn my head, Cam,
Camden? I don't think I.
he swung, and
Y'all
yeah,
wearing cowboy.
and he had swung again, that's when I had done, you seen that?
Was it like a
Alright.
planned fight?
Huh?
Was it like a planned fight?
No.
Yeah, they were waiting down the stairs, you know, down the stairs right there in front of the office. They were waiting on me and my homeboy down the stairs.
Yeah.
So they followed us out the door. And so soon,
He fought there, that's because.
no, look. Look.
They'll know you.
Why were they planning to fight
Derek
you?
had, when Derek swung, that's when my brother had came. He saw Derek was trying to jump, so that's what my brother had came. That's what they trying to make it seem like